Hello and welcome to MCU Kickstarter courses here on the Lötwig Fusel channel. This video marks the start of the new video series about MCU programming, starting with the Arduino and ending up on fully customized systems that have nothing more to do with the Arduino themselves. In this video series you will learn hardware design, AVR architecture and AVR programming. Now, as I already told you, Kickstarter courses. Now, what does that mean? Well, Kickstarter, it's a course where you can get started if you have not worked with microcontrollers before. And courses, it's a plural of course, so multiple courses, not just a single one. It's a modular design so that you can pick whatever you want and you have multiple learning paths that teach you multiple skills inside of the ecosystem that I've just explained, starting with the Arduino, with the target to get to full custom systems. Now, before we're going to get too much into the details on what you will learn, I want to quickly show you the learning paths that will be explained in this video series. Now, as you can see, we have multiple boxes here, and every box that we have on this slide is one video series. So the MCU Kickstarter series is composed out of 4 independent video series. Of course, they will not be all uploaded at once, but they will come step by step in a certain way so that you can get started with the Arduino and go from the Arduino to fully custom systems. Now, I want to quickly explain you what each video series is and what you can expect from which video series. So let's start with the first one, the Arduino series. This is the most simple series. It's the most easy to learn, it's the most easy to start, and if you have no knowledge in MCUs, you're gonna start with this video series. This video series introduces you to the Arduino UNO, shows you how to program with the Arduino UNO, how the electrical connections between the Arduino and different systems works, and how this all comes together to one working maker-based project on the breadboard. Now, what we're then gonna learn is AVR on Arduino, since the Arduino is a hardware and software platform. So the Arduino, it is a PCB with components on them to kind of like program the Atmel ATmega microcontroller. Now, Arduino does not only come with the board, Arduino also comes with the software. So Arduino has a certain software stack that allows you to easily program microcontrollers without dealing about the actual implementation details of the microcontroller themselves, which is quite convenient, but also limits you to these features that Arduino thinks are useful. And I can already tell you, the ATmega can do more than what the Arduino software is kind of like offering you. And yeah, you can kind of like abuse the features of the Arduino more than, or of the microcontroller, the ATmega, more than what the Arduino offers you. Now, we have the software and the hardware. When we are starting with the Arduino, we are starting with the Arduino hardware and software platform. And then when we are moving to AVR on Arduino, we're gonna remove the software component of the Arduino, only using the hardware of the Arduino and writing plain microcontroller code, which is super handy and super useful if you want to still kind of like have the advantage of developing your systems on the Arduino, testing them on the Arduino, everything Arduino related, but want to have a bit more involved, a bit more faster, a bit more flexible firmware on your controller. Then AVR on Arduino is the right use case for you. Now, what you then can do is you can decide if you want to go down or right. And if you want to go like right, you are also throwing away the Arduino totally. So instead of now basically working with the Arduino microcontroller, instead of working with the Arduino software, you're going to develop a full custom system. You're going to select a chip that suits you, still an AVR chip, still the same kind of chip that's used in the Arduino, but a whole different one. There are chips that are way more powerful, that have way faster clocks, that have more I/O, actually a lot more I/O is possible. That have a lot more I/O. You can integrate also different components that might not be available on the Arduino, and you put all of this onto one board, which is then gonna be named AVR Full Custom, because, well, it is a full custom design based on the AVR, which has nothing more to do with the actual Arduino themselves. Now, what I also offer is a video series called Arduino Integrated. Arduino Integrated targets people that come from the makerbase, which still want to use the Arduino software, but no longer want to use the Arduino hardware because they want to build custom carrier boards for the Arduino chip. and for the components that they want to use. Or AVR and Arduino, two Arduino integrated. So if you want to kind of like still use the kind of like way of writing and developing your product, that you can have it all on a breadboard, that you can easily use the Arduino hardware platform, but in the end you want to take the microcontroller and put onto a custom board, but still kind of like be in the non-Arduino software environment. This is kind of like the video series that I offer. So a very simple one to get started with an Arduino. I have a bit more involved video series about the AVR programming on the Arduino, and I have a full custom series where you do everything your own chip selection, own firmware, own board, everything. And I also have an alternative series that's not as hardcore as the AVR full custom, which is kind of like allowing you to put your breadboard, your maker-based designs on a PCB, which is quite interesting for people that are makers. If you are a maker, for example, and you already know the Arduino, you can directly jump to the Arduino Integrated series. Or if you want to say, all right, I know the Arduino, but I want to know a bit of AVR programming, you're going to first go to AVR programming and then jump to the Arduino Integrated, and you have a lot of learning options in this tutorial. And if you understand the Arduino and if you understand the flow of this tutorial series, you're going to be quite prepped into being your own hardware and software designer and doing all your maker, cosplay, whatever projects yourself, because you then know how to do it. So if you want to do some cosplay, LED lighting for your cosplay, well, you can build your own circuit board with full custom chips, or you take the Arduino and still program in the Arduino code, but build a carrier board so that you can kind of like place it into your costume. So you have a lot of options. Now, just quickly to summarize, I can quickly show you the possible learning paths. So you can start with the Arduino. Then you can go for AVR on Arduino and go to full custom, or you start with the Arduino, you go to AVR on the Arduino, and then you go to Arduino Integrated, or you directly start with the Arduino and directly go to Arduino Integrated. So you can actually see we have three main learning paths that you can do with this video series that share common video series or are kind of like dedicated to that kind of learning path. And of course, what you always have is that you have the option to skip a series if you already know it. So for example, if you know Arduino, which many people that probably come to this video series will already know, because Arduino is quite common. It's nowadays used in schools. It is used in universities. So it's used like everywhere. So you might already know the Arduino. Well, you have three more video series that you can take on with three different learning paths on what you want to in the end achieve, because what you want to achieve is maybe an Arduino Integrated or full custom or just AVR or just the Arduino. You have all the options, to combine and watch this video series, learn and improve your knowledge. So yeah, in general, let's maybe a bit summarize that, what the kind of like takeaways from the video series are. Well, in the end, you will learn system design. You will learn how you can, from a concept of a, let's call it product, kind of like evaluate what components you need, how the components shall be arranged, what chip you need, how to put them maybe on a PCB or on a breadboard, and how to build up the circuits, and how at the end come up with a certain hardware design that you then need your knowledge of the MCU architecture, tailored for the AVR in our case. So you can understand how the MCU works, so you know what to look out for if you want to select an MCU for a project, and also in the end you know the architecture for the actual AVR MCU programming at the end, which we also want to learn in this video series and what I will teach you. Now, this is basically what you want to get away. It's basically you get everything in one box video series, multiple series, and yeah. The modular design shall allow you to pick up wherever you want. And of course, it's not going to be a big video per series. So you're actually going to have sub videos that you can follow and that help you get forward. All right, so let's maybe now talk a bit about the target audience, because this is also quite important. What should you know, or what do you need to be able to do to kind of like start watching this video series? Now, first of all, this is not a programming tutorial. I'm going, especially in the Arduino series, I'm explaining a bit how the logic of the programming works, and if we are getting to like more advanced concepts of state machines and all of these like fancy features that are happening in software engineering or lookup tables, and if you are getting to like stuff that is kind of like something that is not like basic programming, I will of course explain it. But I will not teach the basics of a programming language. I'm not going to teach how a programming language works, what is a compiled programming language, what is a non-compiled programming language, how all of this programming related stuff works. Well, I'm not going to explain that. So what I recommend is that you have basic programming experience, but of course if you don't, you can either acquire this knowledge or you can just try, but it really helps knowing programming, especially when we are getting into the AVR stuff, because then we are using C++, and I'm not going to go into an in-deep tutorial how the language works and how compilers work and how pointers work and all of these features. Not going to go into that. So if you know Python, C, C++, C#, Java, whatever programming language, it's definitely a recommendation that you already know some language. You don't need to master it, but you need to at least know how programming works. Same goes for electrical engineering. I'm not going to teach you how Ohm's law work. I'm not going to teach you the basic RC/RL circuits. I'm not going to teach you how diodes or transistors works. This is all something that I would see as a recommended plus knowledge. So it's not 100% required that you understand how a transistor works. It's also not 100% required that you are like an expert in RL or RC circuits. So with capacitors or coils, this is definitely not required. But you should at least know what these components are. And of course, I will go into that. If we are putting an LED on our board and we are connecting it up to the Arduino, I will of course show you how to select the right resistor for the right LED that you have selected. These are all things that I will explain, but I will not, of course, do a basic electrical engineering tutorial here. I might do a video of that some other day, but currently it's not planned. The next point is that you need to be willing to spend money. Well, because we are working with hardware. We are not only on the software side. If you are just doing a programming tutorial with Unreal Engine, with Visual Studio, C++, or anything that's kind of like related to that, you just need your computer. And well, the entry level to microcontroller programming is higher because you also need the hardware themselves. You need to have a board, a MCU board, and everything to kind of like get started. You need to invest money into getting the components, and especially if you're getting to full custom where you need a specific device to program the microcontroller, which is no longer possible by just plugging it in with a USB cable into the computer, you actually need to buy this device, which might then cost like 120 or 150 euro. And what's also of course required is you of course need software, especially if you're going into the full custom. You need the software to design PCBs, and software that is good costs money if you are not like able to get it, for example, as a student license for free. Of course, there's always free software out there, but it's quite questionable if the software is usable for like projects, because most of the free software is not that good. But of course, it's available and you can decide for yourself how you want to kind of like tackle the problem. But yeah, just a quick heads up and information for you. Alright, so that's it for the first initial video, and well, of course, I'm going to continue on recording, I'm going to continue on uploading, and yeah, especially since we have a learning path, and you're watching the video as it is published, you will find no other video, of course. I will, of course, first start with the Arduino tutorial, because this is kind of like the most common base, and then I might go to AVR on Arduino or Arduino Integrated. That depends on a few external factors which video series I'm gonna do first. Maybe I'm gonna also start doing video series in parallel, but for now there will be just the Arduino video series that will be done like step by step, video by video, and when this one is done, I might work on these in parallel, or I might first work on this one and then on that one, to then come back and maybe make a video of Arduino Integrated with the software stack of the AVR, to then in the end to publish the last video series to do the AVR full custom. I want to bring in the hardware and PCB design aspect as soon as possible, so it's probably going to be that video series, then this, and then that. In the order of uploading. But if you're watching this with maybe like, let's say half a year after this video series has been published, you're probably already going to find everything already uploaded and referenced in the video description. So then, thank you for watching. This is the learning path. Select wise which you want to start with, and yeah, I'm going to wish you a nice day. See you in the next video. Bye.